Greetings, awakening souls. My name is Karen,
And I'm Barry Martin.
and today we're talking about why it is so important to connect with your soul. Why do we want to do that? People talk about it a lot, but what does it really mean?
We're going to talk about one specific thing, and that's called guidance or inner knowing, and just talk about why that's important and why so many people have a difficult time when they're not connected. And then at the end, we're going to just do a very brief moment or two to tune in and begin to get a sense of that connection with your own soul.
So first of all, we need to think about the word soul itself. People mean a lot of different things when they talk about the soul, and so we want to tell you what we mean by that. For us, the soul refers to the true self, the luminous self, which is what our work is all about, helping people to get in touch with that radiant luminosity that lives at the core of each one of us.
There's another metaphor that I like to use is that we are a drop in this ocean of God, but we are also the totality of God in the drop of our being. That's what a soul is. So we're each individualized aspects of God One, all that is. So what we're talking about is today one aspect of why it's important to connect directly through experience to the fact that that is the truth of what we are.
Yeah, the soul is not something that we have, although a lot of people talk about it that way. The soul is who we are. And maybe that's the biggest shift that we make as human beings, is the shift from thinking that we are that self that we see in the mirror, that self that we can touch and see and feel and hear, to realizing that we are the soul, the divine essence that lives in the core of our being and is easiest to access in that space right above our hearts.
So why is it so important? Karen and I talked about this, and I think the number one thing that we see with most people who are on the path is that every one of us knows that we want to be in tune and aligned with what's the highest and the best for everyone, and to be doing what is really something that's not going to create more chaos and confusion and karma in our life. Unfortunately, what also happens with most of us is we come to trust our minds and to try to, when we have an issue or a problem or we're trying to figure out what to do, too often we go up here and we start to think about it. We start to talk about the pros and cons. We go to authority, other people, ask them their opinion. And what should I do about this? We'll read about it and get all this information to try to get enough information together to make a decision about what we should do to get some kind of hopeful result that we think is the right one.
So we end up thinking and reading and watching YouTubes and consulting every place out there and forgetting that inside of us is the one place where we can get in touch with our own inner authority. The level of us, the deepest truth about us that doesn't think about things, it doesn't have theories, it doesn't make any decisions or choose between this and that option. The soul always just simply knows. And in every moment there is something that the soul knows is best for us to do next. The soul always knows what our next step is.
Think about that in comparison to what you get from the mind. All the mind is a repository of thoughts, ideas, beliefs that come from what we ascertain from a past experience. In other words, the mind is always looking at what's happening every moment and trying to evaluate when something happened, why it happened, what was a good outcome, what was a bad outcome. And it does that even with its limited perception, like it even knows what's good or bad. It's just good or bad based upon its perceptions of what is good or bad, which may have nothing to do with with reality, considering that we're souls, and who knows where things are going to lead next and next. It's just some kind of idealized idea of something that we would like to have or not have. So all that's up here is information from the past. It has nothing to do with the present, and certainly nothing to do where things are going. Who or what could possibly know the future except some consciousness, some beingness that can perceive beyond past, present, and future? And again, all this has is the past, and it tries to take information from the past to maybe somehow predict what might happen in the future. Is there any wonder why that doesn't work? Why we create these situations that don't turn out very well and turn into chaos and crisis? It's pretty simple.
That's the basis of all suffering, isn't it? Because the mind just keeps us spinning and spinning and spinning. And when we're ready to graduate from the mind, might be that moment when we start to realize that, hey, for every YouTube video that's saying this is the way to evolve spiritually, there's an equal and corresponding other YouTube video or whole group of them that are saying, no, it's the opposite. You need to do it this other whole way. And so as the mind realizes that, as we read stuff, as we watch stuff that begins to contradict itself, I think some part of us probably starts to realize that there is no ultimate truth out there. The only ultimate truth is going to be found inside. And so we keep ourselves busy forever looking out there and just spinning around in this like maelstrom of mental confusion. Or we can go into the place inside of us where it's quiet, it's still, and there's only one thing that the soul is wanting to get across to us in every moment.
Have you ever noticed when you go talk to the people you really appreciate, or even go and look for the real authorities on a subject, everyone will give you this idea about what's the right or good thing to do. And when you listen to them, you go, God, that makes so much sense. That is absolutely seems so clear. Then you talk to someone else, and they'll give you an equally valid reason why another approach or another thing is good. And by the time you talk to 3 or 4 people, you hear 4 or 5 things that sound valid, and you just feel more confused than ever. Well, yeah, I mean, every one of those realizations that those people had was based upon maybe a clear appreciation of something that happened to them in the past from which they gleaned an insight. But again, it's the past. What knows everything, past, present, or future? What knows everything about us, our past, where we are, and where we are going? And simultaneously, all the myriad influences that are going on that influence our existence. We don't have a clue of all the factors that are going to happen, that are already happening, that are sculpting everything we're going to experience as we move ahead. But there is one that does. And that is what we connect with when we get in here.
Because think about it, the soul is like a tiny little encapsulation of the divine in us. So the light of the divine, the wisdom, the love, the truth, all of that is living inside of us in a miniature form, because each one of us is a tiny projection of the totality of what the divine is. And so in order to get in touch with the most divine input at any given moment, connecting with the soul is the way to go. Because the soul really only lives in the present. The mind and the ego live in the past, and they're working through whatever didn't get worked through about the past, or they're living in the future and worried about what's going to happen next. The soul lives right here in the moment. And so right now, it knows only one thing: what is alive for it right now.
And that aliveness is prompted and guided by an omniscient omnipresence, God, one, all that is in everything, is understanding what is going on everywhere in the multiverse, and knows exactly what the little drop in the ocean of God that you are is going to do next. that integrates with the whole thing. And that's what we find when we drop out of the mind, let go of our concepts, our ideas, try to think we can figure it out, and basically come down to that childlike mind of not knowing, being in the mystery. I don't know, I don't have a clue. And then we can turn inward and we can find the place in us where we can come into a clear knowing. We can be prompted by that still, small voice, exactly what it is that's right for us.
So, would you like to experience that? I'd like you to close your eyes for a moment and just get in touch with something in yourself or in your life that you would like your soul's wisdom on. That you would like the soul that you are to respond to. And so just hold that issue or that situation in your consciousness. And now just let your hand gently bend at the elbow and come up and over that place right above your heart that is your sacred space within your physical body. As Barry often says, this is the altar of your being. Just let the breath come in underneath your hand and feel the breath breathing you in any way that it wants to. And with each breath, feel a sacred space opening underneath your hand. And feel your desire to connect with who you really are beneath everything else that's happening and going on in your life. And feel as you breathe into that sacred space that the infinite wisdom of the divine is available to you right here, right now. It's not out there someplace for you to go chasing after. It's right here in your heart of hearts, just waiting for you to come back to it. And so as you breathe and feel in this sacred space, you may begin to feel or sense that this is the focal point for the soul, the divine spark that lives in you. You may begin to become aware of that light, that energy, that uniqueness that is you as a soul in this human experience. And so just rest in that and enjoy the sensations of being home in yourself. There's no place to go, there's nothing to do. There's just to be as you are. What a relief. And so now, just let your awareness consider the issue or the situation that came to you a little bit earlier. And just take everything about that and in your own way, just give it to your soul. Give it to the self that you really are. Just pour it into that space with the attitude of a little child, as Barry was saying earlier. God, soul, divine in me, I don't know what to do with this. I don't have a clue. But I know that you have a next step for me to take. And all I really need is that one next step, which will lead me to the next step and the next. And so right now, what is it important for me to see and know about this issue? And then just feel the breath opening you up wider and wider, giving space for that to come through. And so we'll just rest in the silence together for a bit. And so in these last few moments, let's give thanks for whatever has come through, whatever new awareness is dawning in you. And if it seems that nothing has happened here, let's just agree to trust that in the right moment, at the right time, you will be shown what you need to see and know about this situation. And in the meantime, you can continue to ask and continue to turn it over to the place in you that contains the divine fire of infinite wisdom, infinite awareness, and infinite love and strength. And we can trust that that will step forth as we invite it to do that. So we wish you all the best on your journey of awakening. And we send you our love and blessings. Namaste.